Hey everyone, I wanted to share a few thoughts with you today. Philippians chapter 2 verse 4 reads, "Each of you should look not only to your own interests, but also to the interests of others." I am a 48-year-old white man, a product of privilege, born into an upper middle class family with two supportive parents who provided for my brother and I in everything we endeavored to do. Growing up, all my friends enjoyed the same privilege as I did, and unsurprisingly, all were white. The area I lived in was 99% white. It never occurred to me that there was something off about that. I simply enjoyed the privilege that I was given. It wasn't until I moved to Los Angeles in 1990 that I started to develop close relationships with people of color. I became a Christian in 1991 and was fortunate to be a part of a spiritual community that was incredibly diverse. I soon had best friends that were Asian, Black, and Latino. But over the years, my racial bias and privilege would leak out without even knowing it. I remember various conversations with people when they tried to address these kinds of attitudes within me, but I could not hear them because in my mind, I wasn't a racist. In my mind, a racist had to be an angry, violent, and mean-spirited character like the type I'd seen in movies or read about in books. I was completely unaware of how my racism and bias had affected my thinking and how much I had been the beneficiary of racist policies and systems. I've worked hard in my life, but my privilege is undeniable. It never occurred to me that the basic family and societal framework that I inherited at birth was one that was held out of reach for many of my Black and brown counterparts. About 3 years ago, shootings of unarmed Black men were once again in the headlines, and I could see this was causing a great deal of pain and anguish for some of my closest friends. I sat down with them and started asking a lot of questions, and they helped me to see through their lens and understand how they grew up and the things that they had to deal with that I would never have to deal with because I was white. It was a sobering and heartbreaking moment, to say the least, to understand the disadvantage my friends faced in this world simply because of the color of their skin. Some of those conversations were painful and embarrassing, but I'm so grateful for the patience, grace, and love these men showed me as they helped me see the world through their eyes. And this is the burden that I feel today, to understand the interests of my brothers and sisters, to be able to empathize and to change my own patterns of thought and speech that at times in the past have been dismissive and callous to the systemic racism that is in our country. And isn't that what repentance is? Changing the way that we think? I pray that I'm able to continue to understand the interests of my brothers and sisters at a deeper level, changing the way I think as well as leading my kids forward into a way of thinking that I didn't have at their age. When confronted with the reality of racism in 2020, I could choose fear and insecurity and say or do nothing because I'm uncomfortable or disconnected. But the alternative is humility, which opens the door to learn and to have the conversations that will help me learn to fulfill Galatians 6, which reads, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." To carry these burdens, I have to take responsibility for the change that needs to happen in our world today. And if I am to understand the interests of my brothers and sisters, again, I must choose humility. Will I say something dumb? Possibly. Will my bias leak out? Most likely. But if I choose humility, I can grow past those things. And then I can be at peace knowing that God is teaching me through my brothers and sisters to become more like Jesus. Thanks for listening.